This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers from Bloodmarked with mentions of The Little Mermaid, Shadowhunters, and the Demon Tide. For full list, please see show notes. There are also discussions surrounding 15th century history, which includes depictions of enslavement and violence.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the YA literature and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie. Even if it doesn't sound like it, I'm coming off of this is after 6 days I could finally talk after laryngitis. So I'm here, but sounding like this.
And today we are very happy to discuss Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. And we are going to start off by acknowledging the absolutely wonderful author's note at the end of this book.
Well, one of the things that was really great about the authors, we both read this through Audible, and it was one of the first times that we've both experienced the author's note being read out loud. And the same thing with the trigger warnings and content warnings. I mean, that you kind of see a little bit more often. But this was the first time to have both of them in a book. But more importantly, Natasha was just saying she was inspired by The Little Mermaid. She loved The Little Mermaid growing up, as many people do, but she was also fascinated in understanding African mythology and culture more. And upon doing her research, one of the things that she loved about this book is that, and she hopes it inspires others too, is to do your own research and realize that the culture isn't this African culture that she writes about, and it does take place in the 1400s, and slavery is a topic of conversation because it happens. It's it kind of keeps the story moving in this book. That African mythology isn't rooted in just grief and trauma. There's these rich cultures, and Laura and I were just we want to talk about it more. And really, you can't have one of the funniest parts in this book was when they saw a bunch of white people and she thought they were spirits because we were so pale. I was laughing because I was we really do be that way.
It really do be like that sometimes.
We're just ghastly. So we can't, obviously, Laura and I can't speak from personal experience but we can talk about the book and just share how much we love the story and more that we want to learn about.
Yeah. And I think the learning is really part of the fun with this, because there are instances where, Jesse, you and I were reading this and we have these references, these white people references to these things that were oh, that's kind of like this. But it's you know what? No. I want to learn more about how it's depicted here, because I'm tired of what I already know. I want to expand my horizons. I want to learn more about this. And this story is so beautiful. And I don't think I can say anything better than what the author said in her author's note, which is representation matters. The end.
Period, point. There's no, well, this, that, the other thing. I think a great example, as much as, look it up. You have, Walt Disney Studios is releasing The Little Mermaid in May this year for live action. Halle Bailey is Ariel. There was an uproar when her casting was announced back in 2020. I'm sure there's going to be more uproar now. You have conversations about as of this week that we're recording, casting for the character meet and greets at the parks. They're looking for Black, I don't know the formal term, for cast members to be the live action Ariel. So, I mean, obviously we don't have a problem with it, but there are people who are, and I'm just so confused. It's 2023, people, but if y'all are going to be racist, and obviously we hope it's not people who are following us and listening to us, because we wouldn't want to associate with you anyway.
And if we're going to talk about, racism, and we're going to talk about chaos, let's talk about the Europeans, because the author's note gives us a little bit more detail, which is just so, fascinating, wonderful, and something I didn't know. The Europeans that came over to West Africa saw the repeating patterns, and they thought they were chaotic because they didn't understand them. But actually, the Africans were using advanced mathematics, and the Europeans just didn't understand it. So the
fact that I didn't know about the concept of infinity was rooted in African history. I didn't, and it's just so funny, like you said, Europeans, because just because they didn't understand it, it meant it was chaotic. Or something new that I learned, probably it was the probably even recently, was the braiding. That there's a beautiful scene in this book, and we'll get to it too. The braiding of the hair was synonymous with mapping. So Simi Dali had an idea of where to go for their next steps in their journey. And even more recently, that cesareans, C-sections, didn't realize that they originated, from what I understand, in Africa, and Europeans found that out, brought it to Europe, and we're like, oh, look what we discovered. They didn't just have to learn from these brilliant women. And they were like, yeah, and the painkiller's banana wine. Sweet.
Oh, the Europeans. What won't they do? What won't they do? But this book is very much about a positive depiction. Like Jess, you said earlier, this history isn't all just pain and grief. There is power and magnificence, using the author's own words, in this book, where she has created this alternate history. And what an alternate history it is. This book really kind of blew my socks off. I didn't know what to expect. And the twist at the end, I was just like, oh, it figures. Oh, it figures. So this really just goes along with everything that we say, do, and stand for on the podcast. But there are a lot of characters here, and I do want to say before we get into the character list that just because you and I both read this through the audio, the narrator has an absolutely beautiful accent, and therefore our pronunciations might be a little skewed, and please don't make fun of us for it, but it is what it is. We're doing our best.
That's the only way we didn't even have a book. But that being said, when we eventually go into the second book, even if I read it by itself, I think I would have the narrator in my head. And you've read this twice, right? Yeah. Yeah. So we'd already, but this goes to what you've said in the past, you love reading audiobooks because then the pronunciations, Yep. There we go. So some of the characters, we have two of our MCs. We have Simi Dali and then Kola. Kola has, he has friends, Ben and Yenka, but we also have Yamoja, who created the Mamiwata, and the Mamiwata are essentially mermaids. However, they aren't this plethora. There's only 7. She was only allowed to create 7, and Simi Dali is the 7th of those mermaids. And Mamiwata actually translates to Mother of the Water, so that works out. We have Babalao, who we'll get more into it, obviously, with the story. We need to see Babalao to get rings. The rings will help get us to Eshu, and Eshu is a trickster god. We learn that he also takes kind of kidnaps Kola's twin siblings because the twin siblings are carrying the rings. You have a community known as the Yamotas. Two significant people in that community are Issa and his grandfather Salif. We have Aludamari and Namoja, and there's also Abayomi. He's a captain of a reclaimed boat, and we'll get more into the boats in a bit. I think I got them all.
Excellent. You did.
Or at least some of the key players.
Yeah, we get most of them. We'll go through it. We'll see who pops up, who wasn't on that list. So let's start off with this story. The story starts off 3 months after Simi Dali has been changed into a, mermaid from her. I mean, just get right into it. She jumped off of a Portuguese slaving ship and to her death, and she was given a choice and to become we'll just say a mermaid, and collect the souls of those that fall from the ships and lead them on their way to the afterlife, to the supreme God. And she's doing that. She's doing that in this cold open. The descriptions of a dark ocean are terrifying to me. So when Simidili swims very deep down, it was oh my goodness. All right, you brave thing. Because of men being terrifying on top of the ocean, Namoja has, as you said earlier, created these 7 mermaids to shepherd the souls. And Simidili finds the soul of a woman who reminds her of her mother. And it is a reoccurring kind of, I'll say theme in this book, where Simidili has an immense amount of shame over not being able to remember her past life while she is in the water. And she does feel if I don't remember any of my life, did I ever exist? And she does have this struggle really throughout the whole book.
But that's also something that's supposed to be once you're a mermaid, Mami Wata, it's supposed to be you're not supposed to really go on land. You're supposed to reside in the ocean, because the more you're on land, the more flashbacks you have, the more memories you have. And you're supposed to be kind of in your own afterlife. This is your new future, your new present, your new future. So you're not supposed to be living in the past. And she's the only one that continues to do so.
Yeah. And the Velashidi does give her a little bit of shit about that. She's you have your soul, cool. Why are you going to the island? Why are you going to the island so early? You can't get to Namoja until day 7. And she's oh, you just want to go hang out in the sand, huh? You want to be up there in the sun? Mm-hmm. Okay. She gives her shit about it. And Simidili's yeah, you're right. Bad, shame. And then she waits for her to swim away. And then she's just going up.
She still did her own thing all the time. She's I loved her.
Too good. But then she goes up to the island, and she doesn't, I do find this interesting, because we have Simidili here in her human form right away. And she does make it a point to say that she could stand, but she chooses not to. She chooses to stay laying down in the sand and letting the sun really bake into her. And then by the end of this book, she is just walking on her feet 24/7, just not catching a break. So she does start off not. So I did like that.
And how many times in the book where she's she was exhausted, because the longer she was out of water, the tired she was getting. She was I feel my skin just dehydrated. Then she would go from mermaid. And I mean, she kind of had a lot of flexibility. It wasn't straight up from The Little Mermaid, because she's if I'm in water, I have a tail. If I'm out of water, I don't. It's almost nope. I don't want to go there, because we want to make an active point not to be comparing it to these other things that we know. But I loved when she was going to get out of water, and she's I feel the bones cracking again. Girl, same. I get that.
Yeah, for real. For real. And then as she is in the sand, she does get her, some memories of her mother, being a storyteller, and how she lived in the capital, in the forest city. But it is through this on the 7th day where she has to give the soul to Namoja. And we get the idea that they do this in human form because they're human souls, and they do it to honor them. So they do it in that form, which I thought was really beautiful. And this ritual to contact Namoja, 7 flowers, 7 prayers. We have all of this. The reveal of Namoja has the emerald, and she left the rivers, and she made the sea her home, because she knew what was happening with the slavers, and she needed to do something. So she made the mermaid water, and she receives and gives the blessing of making them. And it is our honor to shepherd these souls. And she really kind of drives that home into Simidili because she's looking at her and she's like, what is this? What is this? What is this? Why are you like this? This whole, and I have to say, when Simidili comes back with Kola and they have that fight, I was right there with her. She's like, why didn't you tell me this? But we'll get there. We'll get there.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of things where she was like, I mean, we could get to it now.
Okay, let's get into it. So they give the soul. It's very beautiful. Simidili goes back out and she finds Kola and he is alive and that scares her. So she brings him back to the island. She feeds him, heals him. They talk a little bit about everything. And he's like, okay, cool. All right. I see you, because he saw her as a mermaid and now he sees her on land. They kind of talk a little bit and he's like, okay, cool. Can we contact her though? Can we contact Nemoja? Cause I need to get home and, can we do that? And she's like, the fuck?
Yeah. Well, and background for Kola. Kola came off of a slave ship. He was thrown in the water, I think. Yeah, he was thrown on the water. She was actually going to collect his soul. And then she was wondering, like, why are these sharks swimming around me? He was a little bit more hurt than she anticipated, but he was still alive. And that's why she's saving him, is because he was still alive. She was originally just supposed to collect his soul.
Yeah. So, but we get why, right? We get why. So this is why. So Kola is there. He's basically just there. And Nemoja is just talking to Simidili, just like, what the fuck is all of this? How did he get here? And she starts screaming and like wailing. And she's like, you don't understand. Like, you don't understand the order of things. You've broken the decree. You've broken the edict. You are going to fuck all of us, essentially. And Simidili is like, what are you talking about? What? Honestly, she's like, I thought you'd be proud of me for like saving a life, and like I'm gonna kill all of us.
Yeah, like look at me. I have such a good heart. Like I did this selfless thing.
Yeah, this is what I get for doing the nice thing. Yeah. Like, oh my gosh. So Nemoja goes through this story, and it's basically like Olodumare is the supreme god. And, men were all created equal. And of course, men can't have anything nice, and they hated that, so they wanted difference. And because of difference became chaos. And then it was decreed that human destinies are their own, and what are they called? The Orisha cannot interfere in men's life. Okay, cool. Except, like, they are slaving and being horrific. So, Nemoja created the mermaids, and Olodumare was like, you can't just, like, bend the rules like that. That's not cool.
She found a loop. She found a loophole, and she used the last of her power because she only had the 7 sapphires. That's how, like, that indicates. And so she like kind of found a loophole, and she even tells, and like she finds the loophole, she makes the agreement, and that's why she's like, she has to tell Simidili, hey, you're going to have to bring that up with him. I used all my energy. I gave you all your sapphires. You're going to have to explain to him and ask for forgiveness that you saved Kola's soul. So, like, off onto your adventure.
Because you broke the edict. But the most important detail here is that Olodumare was upset about the edict, and Ishu was sent to, like, relay that message of Olodumare being upset about that. And Ishu, who was jealous about Nemoja being able to do this, fucking slashed her 3 times on each cheek. Olodumare did not sanction that, did not even know about that. Ishu was just so jealous over her power to do that he just took it into his own hands. Like, what is that? Yeah,
it's interesting to see that there's like certain things that are completely consistent amongst every culture.
Yeah, just absolutely horrible. So that is a betrayal. And then, of course, we find out the issue is as the messenger between the Earth and Olodomari is just like not relaying messages anymore because he's just like a jealous
He's just
fuck.
Unhinged. He wants everything under his own purview.
Yeah. Absolutely jealous fuck. The pearl veil that Nemoja takes off here, I don't know if you were picturing the jackalope pearl, the jackalope land pearl mask, but I absolutely was. If you go to, it's like jackalopeland.com, there's like a pearl like face mask, and it is beautiful. And that's what I was picturing here. So when she was like, she took it off, I was just like, oh my gosh. But that scar reveal is so intense and just made me so angry, especially when it is revealed that the Supreme God Olodomari did not sanction that, and Ishu is just like upset. It's just the fucking worst. And it's because of all of this, that the slaving ships are not being destroyed by Nemoja or the mermaids because they can't interfere anymore because
they have to just wait there.
Yeah, because Nemoja's already been punished. Like, she's already done like what she feels she can do. Like, she's done enough and she's already been punished for it. So she's not going to risk the wrath anymore of Olodomaya. So, ooh. And everyone is like, don't trust Ishu. Don't trust Ishu.
They say he's the trickster god. And they're like, I got it. We know. Like, they kind of are dismissive. Like, yeah, we get it. He's a trickster god. Don't trust anything he says. Don't trust anything he does. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but then here's the fight. Here's the fight that we were alluding to. It was like, okay. You've told Simidili all of this. Why didn't you tell her that to start with? And she's like, why didn't you tell me this? Why didn't you tell me that I could never save anybody? And she's like, I shouldn't have to tell you. Nobody else is questioning this task, but nobody else questions it. And I was just like,
no, because I just don't agree with that. I think it's just such a boomer, like a boomer mentality of like, just do as I say. Like,
because
just do
I
it.
said
like,
so.
Like, I love knowing the why to it. Like, if I'm told to do something at work, I'll do it. But to I've been fortunate enough that I've been kind of trained to say like, hey, can you do this? This is the importance of it. When I have that why, everything clicks. And also, you're turning somebody into a mermaid for eternity. I feel like there should be like a mini little overview to be like, hey, you're taking up this huge responsibility. You're going to be responsible taking souls and bring them to the alpha, right? Here's some important key things you should really know. As much as it might pain you to like want to save people, you really can't. Here's the importance. There's this edict in place. There's a lot of moving parts. So as much as you'd like to, your sole responsibility is to help bring these souls into bring them home, essentially, into the home afterlife. So I just don't understand. And she's like, didn't say why not. Just because everybody else is doing it. Like,
yeah, for real.
I want to know.
Yeah, for real. And then she's just like, okay, fine. You know what? You screwed up. You have to say you're sorry to Olodomaya. So you can do that by getting these 2 rings from the Babalayo, who's the high priest. And Kola's like, hey, there's a high priest of my village. Just so happens, this is kind of a part where I was just like, really? But it was like, it just so happens that the Babalayo in my village also has the images of you and all of the mermaids here. And, I'll take you there. Take you there. Take me home and I'll take you there, Simidili.
Which I also respect Kola a little bit because that's when, I think it was Yamoja, she even says, why didn't you say anything earlier? Or maybe it was Simidili. No, it was Yamoja. She goes, why didn't you say anything earlier? And he goes, I need to hold this over your head. I need to find a way back home. You're going to get me there. But I'm not like, of course I wasn't just going to be like, oh, and by the way. I need something out of this. So, like, I get that.
For real. And he's like, yeah, I'll take you to the priest, you know, a little tit for tat. And Nemoji's like, okay, fine. Go get the boat. Here's the boat, whatever. But then she's like, Simidili, you know, travel in human form. Humans are fucking scary. Do not reveal yourself. And then she gives her the emerald, like, blade. Loved that.
I also love the part where she's like, and don't you fall in love with that boy. Not only don't you do it, but now she's giving her a reason why. Like, now I got to tell this girl everything. Foam. You're going to die. Not only if you do not fall in love with him, it's not just like, don't fall in love with him because you can't control that part sometimes, as we know with the Shadowhunters. But it's don't act upon it, because if you act upon it, that's when you'll turn to foam and die.
Yeah. So there's a good line here. It says, humans are cruel in their curiosity, which is like a good way. A good way.
That's the entire Earth. No wonder nobody wants to even like beam us up.
For sure. Aliens are like, nah. But it is, so after that conversation, Nemoji gives them the boat. They head east. They're like, you're going to get to the river, walk 2 days there. Simidili has some memories, more of her family. It is now, though, that we're at the reclaimed boat with the captain, and Simidili is, you know, looking around on the boat. They see, she sees some people that are dressed in the similar dress as her father, and she's on land now. She's getting these memories a lot faster. She's like, oh my gosh, they're from Odili. They're from my village. That's the capital. Oh my goodness, which I thought was just like very sweet. But then right after that, they are attacked by Shango and Oya, and we have just like massive plot dropping there.
I love, you know what, I really love, because they're Shango, who is the god controlling the lightning, and his wife is Oya, and together they want to, like they say, they you know, they want to answer the prayers of their people. They want to overturn the ships that their people are like basically begging for, like anything is begging for, like this is what they believe. And one of the things that Simi says is, but what about the edict? And they even said, you know what? This isn't about the edict. We'll deal with that shit, but this is about our people, and they're begging. We hear the cries for help. It turns out it's not the right ship, but it was just the overall impact. I think it's just like important in general to be like, you know what? Fuck the government, basically. Do what's right. And they realize that this is what was the right thing to do, is answering the call of their people.
They are, though, in a pact with Ishu. Ishu is not going to tell Olodomari about what they're doing if they look for the rings.
Everybody's in a pact with this fucker.
Yeah, everyone is. Everyone is in a pact with him. And Oya says that, like, look, don't trust Ishu. He's not relaying messages. All of this is sus.
Yeah, and she, like, brings it aside. She was like, I only have a hot second because her husband was doing the other things. He was, like, doing, and she's like, and that's when Simi even goes, like, why don't you speak up? She's like, not my cross to bear.
Yeah, she's like, not doing it, but you can have all this knowledge. You can deal with it.
Do with this what you'd like.
Yeah, for real. And then Shango and Oya decide to stay on that boat as that boat travels on to catch the slaving ship that captured Kola. And then Kola and Simi continue on, but get knocked out in a storm sent by Ishu.
Yep. Yeah, because that's what I was going to say. And that's when now she's back into a mermaid, which is the only way that she survived. That's the whole thing. And then she's like looking for Kola. She's searching, and she basically finds like an estuary that, you know, is a little bit calmer, and she sees a community of people known as the Yamotas, and she had only known about them through because in this book you get flashbacks of her remembering her human life, and it was a story that her mother and her father would share with her. Basically, it's a group of people who you hear about them, but if they don't want to be seen, they won't be seen. And at the center of their kind of like communal gathering, she sees Kola, and she's just like, oh crap, he's still passed out unconscious. Now I gotta do something about this. And that's where we get more of the story, where she meets Issa, who winds up traveling with them later in their journey, and his grandfather, Salif. And they're just kind of like, they're learning more information about the deities, really.
They are. So it's important to mention that the abaya is there, and that's the West African unicorn-like animal. And that's the sacred animal that leads her, Simidili, through the river. That's her first time, like, going up through the river, to the, I guess, village. I want to call it a village, where the fairies are, where the Yimbas are. And that, you're right. That's where we learn about the twins, right? The souls, one body, mischief and abundance. And that's why they settled there, because the land is very fertile. And there's prosperity there. But this is where we have the vision, right? Where they all these small fairy people pass out cold. And so does Simidili, and they wake up. Well, Simidili wakes up screaming, more or less. But the fairies wake up and they're just like, well, that sucked. That was really bad. That was really bad. And we're going to, like, get on that, but, like, let's continue our dinner. And I respect that.
I respect that. Like, you know what? Let me just finish dinner. We'll figure it out later if we want to bring it up later.
Yeah, it's just like, but the visions are of, like, complete desolation, destruction. Simidili's, like, walking on fairy bones, and everything is dying. Basically just a massive, massive, massive famine. Very, very sad. Very sad. But they're like, yeah, there's nothing to be done. Visions can change, whatever. And you're right. This is where Issa is like, I can be a guide. I can go with you. I can take you home. Your village is not far from here, Kola. And Kola's like, okay, cool. Okay, cool. Fine. And this is where we have the rope bridge with the elephant stampede, which I went to South Africa and have been in a situation where elephants are acting scary, and I can only imagine what a surprise elephant stampede is like. I bet it's just the most terrifying thing in the world. But I can only imagine what that was like, coming upon these, like, rogue elephants just, like, stampeding and being like, what the fuck, man? And then being in that stinky, stinky, stinky ass river. My God. With the Niki Naka, like, ugh. Gross.
Niki Naka. Oh my gosh. Can I say, that whole, because the Niki Naka is what they fought underwater. That reminded me of the Demon Tide scene, whatever they were fighting underwater there, because that was another creature.
Just scary.
And not to compare, like, because the Demon Tide is not white at all. Mm-hmm. Like, it's very diverse. It just reminded me, I was like, this is terrifying. They're still underwater. That's what I kept thinking the whole time. I was like, I knew that they weren't. We were only in the middle of the book. But you're like, how are you going to get out of this?
And still, it's even scarier when the Niki Naka starts talking, and Simidili's like, yo, stop. What are you doing? Like, stop it. And the Niki Naka's like, I'm going to eat you. I know, like, you didn't provoke me, but I'm going to eat you. And it's like, the balance is gone.
But then she thinks she has control of him for a hot second. She's like, oh my God. Maybe I do have the power. Hey. And then she doesn't. She's like, run away.
Yeah.
No, she starts, like, attacking him, and she's like, just keeps stabbing him over and over and over again.
And he's like, disease and death, I'll still eat you when you're like that. Like, it's all good. The balance of the earth is gone. Didn't you feel it? And of course, that moment that everyone felt that he's referring to is when the twins were taken from there.
And she said, she was like, am I not as connected to the water as I thought I was? That was her moment. You're like, maybe I'm not as connected.
The poor girl. I really feel for Simidili.
She is 17.
I know, right? Like, that poor girl. But now we're in Oko. I highlighted this because, we're in Kola's village. Everything is kind of dead on the outside. But when they open the gates, all the people are there and everything is very lively. And Simidili releases the breath she didn't know that she was holding. It's like, oh, good for you. get that out. Fresh breath. My goodness. But I do kind of love that trope now. I just find it entertaining whenever they actually like put it, like it's fun.
I do too. Sometimes I don't know if it's a nod to the readers because now I like seeing it more when it's not in a romantic context. Like, or when it's the guy. I always like when it's the guy point of view where he's like, he didn't realize, like he released a breath he didn't know was, or, you know, in practice, oh my God, thank God. Release that breath. We're finally in the freedom. Like when it's not related to a romantic thing, I think I even like it more now, and it makes me giggle.
It's like, oh, I hope it's a nod to the readers. That just makes me like so
me
happy.
Too. It'd be such a fun, like a conspiracy theory all the authors are in on, like that the one thing that they all put into a book now.
We can hope. We can hope. There's a mention, our first mention here of Ilfadeo, which is the new guard who is, you know, Ishu. Surprise, it's Ishu. But
yeah, but like, did you see that coming?
No.
I didn't.
No.
I feel like I don't, but like, I always look to you because I don't see anything coming. I almost never see anything coming. You're like, read chapter 2, read it again.
I thought he was sus. Just because Simidili thought he was sus, but I didn't. I had to go back and like read the throne room scene a couple times because I was just like, what is going on?
Well, Kola was even sus. He was like, when did we get new guards?
Yeah, where are you from, my man?
Like he was like, at the same time, he's trying to understand that his village and his parents and his family are processing that they didn't lose their son, you know, that he is very much alive and well. So that's so. And for me, when he said like, oh, everybody's wearing white, who died? In my head, I was like, you died.
Yeah, you did.
Like, they thought you died.
You thick man, like you.
And then like he finds out, oh, it's not for me. It's for my sisters. And they're not even like my sister and my brother. It's like, they're not even dead. They were just kidnapped and y'all are giving up hope.
Yeah, he's like, no.
Take that white out. They're like, you're not wearing white. He goes, because they're not dead.
They're not dead. Well, we have stuff to do. So after he's like, Mom, we got stuff to do. I'll be back. I say they, who is it? It's Bem and Yinka and, you know, et al. Kind of. Ilfadeo. Yeah. Go to the priest, right? We're at the priest. We're at the Babalayo. And we get so much plot here. He's the one that made the sapphires. He's the one that blessed them. He did have the rings, but he doesn't anymore because he gave them to the twins in the protection ceremony. You know, and he bound the rings to them. Yeah. It's a whole thing. The rings are amplifiers.
Also, by this point, this is chapter 16. We're 16 and chapters in, and we're like, now we're getting like more meat to the story.
Yeah.
So like we get like, because we understand what the pretense is at the beginning. We're like, okay, go ask for forgiveness. You did this to yourself. You made your bed, go lie in it. So now we've been on this adventure. Now we're 16 chapters in, and we're like, more plot.
Yeah, more plot. The twins are Orisha incarnate. So it's like 2 bodies, like 1 soul. And without them, the land will die because they're the ones that bring like prosperity to the land. So, you know, very interesting. But Simidili's just like, well, where are they? So like, fuck, where are they then? And then this is where we get the beautiful hair braiding like map scene.
Love this scene.
I didn't even know that something like this could be done. That shows a lot about me, whatever, but this is so beautiful. This idea is stunning. And if this were on screen, I can only imagine how powerful this would be.
Oh, yeah.
I
kept thinking I would love to see this in a movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just like, not even a movie. Like, even, like, I feel like it's 2 books right now, so it would be a movie or, you know, like a mini series, however you want to do it. But it just had to be it is such a powerful scene. I love the camaraderie between the sisters. I love, just them sharing stories and listening to each other. And I think it was just, there was even a moment that I think Simidili wanted to ask a question and she already knew. She was like, no. And she's like, you didn't know what I was going to ask? No, I knew what you were going to ask. No, we're just friends. Maybe at one point when we were younger, but, and she was referring to like her and Cola because they grew up together and everything. She's like, but we are very platonic and we are very respectful of each other. Like that is not even a question that you need to, we love talking about female friendships just in the podcast in general. So when you see it highlighted and portrayed so lovingly and beautifully, it just stands out a little bit more.
And it was because initially Yinka did not welcome Simidili at all. She was very like protective, and she does say that.
Like, and in fairness, like I think anybody is with anybody like newcomer, be like, who are you? I'm the owner of this house. Like, I get that.
Yeah, for sure. But then they have this kind of, I don't know. It's more, Simidili says, and she does feel that she is less, right? She does feel that she's not human. She is less than. And she feels that she is, she's always falling behind. She's too slow. She's not strong. She does kind of like hate herself. So it is nice to have this bonding moment between them. Because later on, Yinka says like, no, I see you. You're here. You are part of our group. Like, I am in awe of you. We get that a little bit later. And that is just so, so beautiful. But knowing where Simidili's head is, where she's like, I am less than, makes that so much more powerful later when she does accept everything too. Really great. We do have like memories here too. Like Simidili was born in the river, and Umoja is her ancestral Orisha. Like that's really beautiful. And like Umoja like helped her mother give birth in the river. That was a really beautiful memory.
It made me think, and maybe it won't, I don't feel like it was confirmed. Like, it doesn't feel like foreshadowing because we already know that she's a mermaid. But I wonder, but like, that's not mentioned later in this book either. Be like, oh yeah, I helped birth you. That's why I picked you. Mm-hmm. So it makes me wonder if we get that in the second, like that confirm, because we already know she didn't share a lot of other stuff with her. So who's to know what else she hasn't shared because nobody asked her.
Yeah, for real. Who can say? From this, we go back to our village. This is a travel book. We go back to our village, and Ifadeo is there, and he has black eyes. He's very skinny, and he has a limb. All these are very important, like, traits. But this is also where we have our fight with Issa, where Kola is like, "Go home. I don't want you here. I don't need you, and I'm not your brother." Because Issa is just like a small little fairy, and they are afraid for him, and they want him to go home. And they're like, look, he's not going to go like willingly. You really have to like kind of break his heart, and then he'll go. And that was so sad to me. I was like, oh, don't yell at him.
Don't yell at him. And then you know what you do? Then like, don't break his heart, break my heart. And then you do, and he's dead. Yeah,
for real. And then he dies. He dies later.
And
spoiler.
Like, I'm just like, yeah, spoiler. He dies.
He does.
But then I'm like, I did the thing where I always think they're not going to do the thing in a YA book. And they do it. And I'm shocked every time. I was like, they really killed him.
Yeah, YA doesn't pull any punches.
I was like, first I was complaining about how books are like, they never do the thing. There's never any follow through. Now, how many books have because we also just read Bloodmarked last week. We were like, it's like everybody keeps just dying. Now everybody all of a sudden wants to do the thing. I was like, stop doing the thing.
Stop doing the thing. We are up to, I think, one of my, I guess, like top 3 scenes in this book. This is where, so after the fight, they all get back on a boat and they're going to Ishu's Island, right?
I have to give these people a lot of credit to keep putting themselves on these boats. How have you not developed your trauma yet?
Yeah, for real. But that, yeah. Boats are scary.
I know.
Boats are scary. But Simidili goes down to Aloku, and I loved this. As I said in the beginning of the episode, like, the ocean terrifies me. Like, the deep ocean is absolutely terrifying. But the idea of a god that wanted to flood the world, right? who gets punished and is chained and stuck in the land of the dead. And he's like forgotten because Ishu isn't relaying his messages, right? And she goes down there and she's like, yo, enemy, friend situation. What can I do for you? What can you do for me? And they strike a bargain. And we don't get the details of that bargain until later. But I really liked this imagery. And, it was cold. And she was like, face down on the ocean floor. And I enjoyed that. It was a moment of suspense and kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen here. And then he just kind of goes away after they make their bargain. It was like, oh, all right, cool.
I feel like that like that's just like an ongoing thing is when they make bargains. Like, what's the one? It's like with Simi Dali. They're like, you have to do whatever I ask of you when I ask of it. And she's like, I was going through in my head, how bad could it really be? I guess I can say okay, not knowing what any of this is. Like, you can't do that. You can't do it. Why doesn't anybody realize you can't just like open-ended promising bargains? And all she said is, but you have to do the same for me. No, that's not how this works. No, why isn't anybody thinking like, oh, I feel like that one commercial. They're like, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
Get better with your bargains. Get specific. Right after this, this is where Yinka sees Simidili change, and this is where we have this lovely start to this relationship where they all know now that she is a mermaid. Everybody on the boat, but Simidili does lie to everybody. They're like, yeah, I was gonna go to like a Loku, but like I didn't see him. No, I totally didn't strike a bargain. No, it's totally fine. Let's just forget all about that. Let's drop some plot in your lap because we're gonna talk about Ilfadeo and his whole situation here, right? So they are talking about Ishu and they're talking about stories about him and all of this stuff. And they're saying that Ishu is like in charge of the crossroads and like opens and closes doors. And he is in charge of the routes we take and the beginning and end of life. And he's also like a trickster. And it's really important to like know all of these things and like keep all of these things in like the forefront of your mind. And then they tell this Ishu story about switching the sun and the moon so that people can't navigate. And this is like where when I was rereading it, I was like, why are you saying something like that? Fidea, why are you saying like, but did they die? It's like, why you guys say that? Why are you just like outing yourself like that? Because everyone's like, what? He's like,
Never mind.
Yeah, never mind. It's fine. Yeah, but he's like, but they didn't die. That's, whatever. And then he's like, so what are y'all doing? What's the plan here, y'all? Totally not sus. My note also here is like, Issa is in the hold. But it was just like, oh, okay. So in my second reread, I was like, all right, there it is. Because there are some other hints, but it was like, oh, well, there's a really, really big one, which I thought was interesting. But from here, we're on the island. And the island is a scary place, I feel like. A very forested, scary, dead island with hyenas in the middle and a big volcano and scary castle.
I love a shifter situation.
Yeah, very scary. But it's the conversation that Simidili has with Yinka. And it's where, do not be ashamed of what you are. And you are magnificent. I see you. And then Simidili has been from now on thinking, if only I were human, I wouldn't be so slow. This is like from the island on is where she's really putting those thoughts like out there. She's like, I wouldn't have to wait. I wouldn't have to be so weak. My feet wouldn't hurt if only I were human.
Well, it's the first time. It's kind of like the reverse of what she's been doing from, not even the reverse, but just like how things have flipped from the beginning of the book, because in the beginning of the book, she wanted to stay human and have her memories and like be above the sand kind of situation. And now she's like, oh, what I would do to be under the water and in like my comfort zone. Like this, it wouldn't be so difficult. Like this is literally not who I am anymore.
I want to see more of these hyenas. Don't you want to see more of these hyenas? Mm-hmm. These hyenas do not want to be hyenas all the time. Speaking of like not who they are anymore. They want to be, from the limited time that we see them, they do not have control over like their shifting abilities, and they're being controlled by Ishu. So I want to see them, I don't know. I just really need to read book 2. Maybe they're already in there. But I want to see everything because they might be kin with Yinka, right? Because they shift and they're like, Yinka, are you kin? And Yinka's like, I don't know.
Yeah, they were like, it smells like you are. And she's like, but like they just keep going by their scent, you know, and of course they're picking up on the scent because they're shifters and just, you know, hyenas have like more, I guess, better olfactory glands. I don't know. I have to assume because, you know, you have like, they're in the dog family. Oh my God, maybe they're not in the dog family. Hold on. Even though they look like dogs, they are not related to them.
Oh, there you go. Interesting. After we meet the hyenas, though, what also is very interesting is Infideo is the one that finds the tunnel entrance into the castle. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, we know where your door is. On my second read, it's like, okay, cool. But the first time, he's like, here it is.
How did that get here?
It is funny though that he's annoyed that the passage is blocked. Like he didn't realize it. He's like, the passage is blocked. Duh. And Simideli's like, no, we can move this, you stupid men. Like, come on, move the rock. Come on. And after this, because Yinka ends up staying behind and they get out of the rock tunnel passage and they close the rock and the hyenas are stuck back there. And Infideo is the only one that's like not really injured because Kola is injured and Bema is injured. And
Cola's rough.
Yeah,
they were like
really rough.
I was like, this boy keeps almost dying, and I think I even say that too. She's like, Are you trying here?
Yeah, for real. And Simideli is really pissed off that Infideo is the only one that isn't injured, which is just like very funny. But then we get to this bridge. I love this bridge. It's like a Legends of the Hidden Temple situation.
The rope bridge.
Yes.
It's like very like, yeah.
It's like the 3 pictures and you have to like know the story and it's really good, but it is full circle. So it is like, of course, like Simideli's mom's a storyteller. So like all of it is like,
and then they were just like to get through it, they were like, follow my like that, you know, that there was a pattern. So they were like, you have to follow the exact pattern. And if it goes to shit, just run.
Yeah.
Like, and so in your head, it's like Temple Run meets Legends of the Hidden Temple meets rope bridges. Like there's so many factors where you have the visual in your head, both as it's starting and when it goes to shit.
Yeah. And it goes to shit. Oh my God. Does it ever? But you have to figure out what the story is and then choose the right tiles to cross the bridge safely. And the story they figure out is how Ishu became the messenger of Olotomaya. And it's how he tricked her in the garden. So it's like the garden, the yam, all of it.
I love how at first, like, everyone was like, are you sure? And Simi's like, men.
Yeah.
So she's like, of course, he's so self-centered. He has his ego. It's absolutely the story about himself.
Yeah. And she does. And the only thing that she gets wrong is she chooses one of the wrong slippers. She chooses the opulent slipper instead of the slipper that has a back with it. And that's what makes one of the platforms like suck into each other. And then they all end up jumping. But then Issa is killed. Issa is killed by it's like the bat monsters, right? The Sambasems, like, oh my God.
I don't even feel like we had like a proper time to mourn because it was like, it was just but we got to keep moving. Like we do not have time to stop, which is just like what happened in Bloodmarked when Nick's dad dies, and he's like, he just went, and we're like, but his dad just died. We're not gonna okay.
No, it's like
we have
okay.
shit to do.
It's all right. So, but that was what it is here too. And they're like, his soul, you know, it was so beautiful. You could see it. And it was just like, oh my God, it's very, very sad. You know, Bem is also not going to make it here too. But then we're in the throne room. Oh my God, here's the reveal. Oh my God. Oh my God. Of course, Ishu is limping. He has 1 foot in the human world and 1 foot in the other world. Of course. Oh my God. What a surprise.
I really was like, sometimes when the surprises and the plot twists happen, I wind up rereading it because I can't believe it. I was like, wait, what? I feel like that happens a lot. And I know I'm not the only person.
No, not at all. I absolutely did this a few times as well. Because he's like walking up to the throne room and everything starts to like change, and then his appearance change, and he like turns around and he's like, speak, Simi. You know, what do you want, little fish? Speak. And then he just, you know, is a messy bitch that loves drama and decides to spill the tea about like, oh, you can't love her, BT dubs, because she'll turn into foam.
Right. Did she not tell you?
Yeah.
Let me tell you for her. And she's it's like, oh, she didn't tell you, huh? And she can't do this and she can't do that. And then like, oh, it's like, ooh, did you guys not talk that out? Okay.
It was like, what a jerk. Ugh.
And you know, she was just like, they were both, and even after, I just hit my desk. I'm sorry. Even when he says all that, you know, Cola just steps in closer and holds her hand. And she was even like even he knows all the truth and he's still being all swoony. And this isn't a romance. Let's not put it like this isn't a romance book. This isn't, you know, this is plot book. But it was cute to have that.
It really was. It really was cute because that's like the last cute moment we have because it all goes to shit right after this.
So quickly. I remember I was like, how much time do I have left in the book? And I go, oh my God, it's almost done.
Yeah, it's almost done. So it's bam, bam, bam from here. Okay. So the plot is the twins are in a cage upstairs and Kende put her ring into the ocean so that it could not be taken from her because it has to be given willingly. And if she doesn't know where it is, she cannot give it to Ishu willingly. So her ring is out. The brother has his ring and he is like waffling about giving it or not, depending on the situation, which, you know, they're like 8. I totally understand. I
also
get it.
Brothers.
Yeah. Like I get it. But then we have, so there's like a fight or whatever. And between Ishu and Kola, you know, there's a big fight. And Simi goes upstairs to the twins. They're in a cage. She can't get them out, whatever. And then we have Kola comes upstairs. And Kola is like limping and he has his sword. And he's like, Ishu's coming. He gives her the key so that the brother and sister can come out of the cage. And then he's like, come to me, brother and sister. Where the fuck is the ring? And everyone's like, yo... What? Why are you acting like this? And then the real Kola like comes up the stairs a few minutes later and everyone's like, oh, duh.
So much. I feel like that was a running, I don't want to say theme, but it kind of if it was throwing us off, you knew it was throwing the actual characters off.
Oh yeah, it's like what?
Like,
why are we yelling?
Why are you acting so weird?
Yeah, and it's like, oh, trickster god. We're supposed to keep all of this, like, you know, duh. But then we have our villain monologue. Very fun. Ishu, go off. You tell us why you want to be like Supreme Commander, Master of the Universe. You just go off, and he does. It's not fair. I don't want to be the messenger anymore. I want to be really powerful. The rings will make me really powerful, but I can't find one of them. That's what it sounded like.
I mean, that's because it's what it was.
It really was. He's like, you know, and everybody's going to do what I say, and that'll be the best, you know, because like, you know,
power. Phenomenal cosmic power.
Yeah. You know, I won't neglect anybody. I'll be in charge. It's like, okay, whatever. All right. But then he admits that Alotomari wouldn't have gone far enough in her punishment of Nemoja, and that's why he decided to scar her. He's like, well, she wouldn't have taken it far enough. Obviously, she wouldn't have learned her lesson. It's like, yo, that is not your call to make, my guy. Like, you can't just do that. And he just goes off, and he's basically just a jealous, small little man.
I mean, consistent.
Yeah.
What a theme.
Yeah, consistent. And then after all of this, he's like, okay, Simidili, okay. Let's work something out, right? You want to be human again? I can do that. Like, if I'm all powerful God, not only can I make you human again, but I can make it so, like, none of this is a bad thing. Like, it's all good. And she's tempted.
She's thought about it for a hot second.
She's like,
but then she realized that's not what she wants anymore.
Yeah, because that's when she's like, I'm not ashamed anymore. You know what? I will find everything on my own. I'll do it on my own. I don't need you. If there's a way to be human, you know what? I'll find it. And, you know, thank God for her, because, like, what a powerful moment just to be like, fuck you. I'll do it on my own. If this thing exists, I'll find it.
And if she still wants it, because let's not forget how many times, like, she was starting to go back to the whole, oh my God, I really wish I wasn't human right now. This would be so much easier in this form. The times that she was saying how, like, the water calls to her, which I was like, oh my gosh, it's like Moana, how she's just called to it. And just, you know, how she's like, my skin feels tight. I'm in pain. I don't want to, like, she's growing. Like, I think those are just the natural growing pains from, like, not just when you're 17, like in your 20s and your 30s and, like, wherever you are during different situations in your life, you're like, it's okay to, like, you know what, that could have been a very real thing that I wanted at a different point in my life, and things change also.
Did you get the riddle?
No.
Did you try? I didn't even try.
I didn't even try. I was like, I was doing the riddle, and I was like, no, I'm not even going to try. I lucked out in ACOTAR. And then when they said the answer was infinity, I was like, I wasn't even going to get that if I tried. I'm so glad I didn't try. Did you?
No, not at all. Not at all. It was like, what was it? It was like, you know, exist without discovering, ever changing. You know, I bring you to Alotomari, because he was talking about, like, everything is repeating patterns. And one of my favorite things, though, is Simidili's like, okay, done talking. Are you just talking because you don't know the answer? Like, come on. Because he's like, I was born. She's like, enough. Do you know it or not? And then he's like, infinity. And then she's like, bet. And then they just, like, jump into the sea. She grabs him around the waist and jumps into the sea. What a moment. Just boo, down. So good. So good. I am Simidili. Follow me home. I am more than my memories. This is my choice. This is my, oh my gosh. How powerful. And then Simidili fights in the sea with Ishu. Eels are creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
this whole sequence with the eels.
Has there ever been, like, one where you're like, oh, that's not that bad? No.
I don't know. But this whole sequence with the eels, I was just like, bleh. But this black pearl that she puts down, I was like, what is this? What is this? Aloku had black pearls. What is this? When she did it. And then it was just, like, not mentioned for a little bit. And then Aloku popped out and I was like, haha. Yay.
It's like I want to say, like, a beacon of sorts, I guess.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed it because, like, Aloku also gets his revenge, and Simidili slashes the fuck out of Ishu's cheeks to get her revenge.
Good.
Yeah, and Nemoja's revenge as well. And I really liked this whole scene of where Aloku starts, like, binding Ishu, and he's just, like, wrapping the chains around, like, tighter and tighter.
And then he's like, wait, we could talk about it. No!
Yeah, he's like, get fucked. No, we cannot. But then Simidili and Aloku are like, so you can hold up your end and hold up your end, ... And he gives her the ring that he found, which is just like, oh, all right. Well, plot, everything's wrapping up kind of nicely because we don't know the terms of the bargain yet. But then we go back up to the surface. Kola dies, like, he dies. But then between the rings and the twins and, you know, being all amplified and everything, the soul brings Kola back to life. And Simidili has another really great thing. She's like, I am more than this. I am more than just a girl. I am so many things. And it's just like, yes, so good. And then we have the fulfillment of the quest, right? To apologize to the supreme god Olodumare for breaking the decree. So the twins give the rings to Simi, and Olodumare just blankets Simi in love, right?
Yeah.
So nice.
It's so nice. And it was almost like a moment of like, that's it. You just had to ask for forgiveness. And like, it's okay. Because how often, I don't know, traumatized young millennial here, you could ask for forgiveness and they're like, that's great. You're taking ownership of your actions and you're still penalized. I'm like, damn.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's like, forgive me for Kola. I'm sorry. And all of these images come by of Simi's life. She shows herself like saving Kola, and there's just this feeling of like gratitude that comes over Simi. So Olodumare is like grateful, and there's this big comforting peace. And you're right, that was it. And then so the rings go back to the twins, and then we have Kola, who's like, he's like coming out of it, and Simidili's like, I lied, by the way, and I did see Oloku, and he gave me that pearl. You weren't down there, but he gave me this pearl. And when I summoned him, he told me to keep a secret because he didn't know who I could trust. And, good thing he did, because we had a traitor in us. So good, but also bad, because I have to go help him fight his loneliness now for ever, and live in the land of the dead. So bye. And then she just like jumps off of the balcony and leaves. And she leaves him. And like, that's the end of the book.
Do you think if we didn't find out the bargain, this would have been like, oh, that's a nice standalone?
Yeah.
But we didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause that would have been a standalone. Like she's back to the sea. Right? Like, the mermaids usually end up back in the sea, or they end up foam. So, like, back in the sea, that's better than foam. Hooray. But, like, there's more. So I'm so excited that there's more, because I need to know what happens. This was so good.
And it's like, and you don't have to wait for it. Like,
it's already out.
It's out. The second book is out. So I feel like that's kind of, like, cause that, I mean, that's the thing with, I feel like, it's rare to find standalones now, at least from the books that we've been reading, because otherwise, you want to leave the reader wanting more. And obviously publishers, I could only assume, are looking for those franchise, looking for those series. They want to get people hooked. You want to have kind of like a built-in audience. So when that next book comes, you already have your initial audience there and then some, because that's kind of the perk now. We don't have to wait for that second book. We go right into it.
Jess, what was your favorite moment here?
I really liked, it was so early in the book, but I really liked Simi confronting Yamoja. Like, but you didn't tell me. I know it's like such a small thing, but I feel like applying it to just like real life, the fact that she was even able to stand up is one of the reasons why I love Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They're like, no, fuck that. Like, we're not going to just take anything. I'm going to ask questions. And I respect that so much, that she has that at 16, 17 years old. Because I didn't. Not at 17. I was very compliant. I'm an eldest people pleaser. Like, I'm yes, you tell me what to do, I will do it right away. And I'm learning to find that now as an adult. So I think whenever I see any female MC in a book standing up for like what's right and questioning authority, I envy that. I'm like, I wish I had that at that age.
That's such a good answer.
What was yours?
Oh,
I also liked them saying about the white people being ghosts and spirits. I cracked up. I was laughing. I lost my voice again last night when I was loosely being recovered.
Favorite scenes. I would say that actually they're like three right in the middle. The cold open. I really love that cold open. I really love the hair braiding map scene. And I really love the idea of her just diving off, right, and going down and like leaving everybody and going down. Because I imagine he's like yelling after her, right? He's like Simi, like, you know, and she's high up there and the ocean's like deep and roiling, and she's just like, pew. Like, how dramatic, how gorgeous, how stunning with her golden pink, rose pink scales. Like, oh my God. Stunning.
I want to see her tail.
Yeah.
I want some fan art of her tail. Maybe I'll do it. Like, I don't even know if there is any. I haven't seen it. I should correct myself. I haven't actively looked for it to see if there is anything out there.
I have not either. I really wanted to stay like focused and like locked in. So I didn't read any reviews and I didn't look at any fan art, but I will now. That was incredibly enjoyable.
Yeah, that was so fun. And I'm so like, you got 2 reads out of this so far. Would you read it again to get, I mean, you could probably pick up the second one right away, but if you weren't picking up the second one right away, could you see yourself going back to you and be like, you know what? I want to read this again.
Yeah, I do. And I do think that I could do it quickly at a high speed because I am very familiar with the story and
the dialect.
Yeah. And so I think it would be just a really easy refresher before starting the next book. Yeah, easily. It's not a slog by any means.
But thanks for joining us in this discussion. Please feel free to follow us on Instagram. We're at ACOFAE Podcast. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. And we'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks for joining. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.